Welcome, everyone, to today's episode of News with a View, hosted by me, John A. Costa. Today is August 13th, 2025. This is episode 115. Today, we're going to discuss the Posse Comitatus Act, which it spells out where the president can send National Guard and troops and things like that inside the United States. And it's the Posse Comitatus Act. So that's kind of wordy, a lot of legal mumbo jumbo. But we're going to discuss that because I discussed that yesterday. And this is all about the D.C. takeover and what the president plans on doing. So I'd like to speak a little bit more on that. Then second thing we're going to talk about again, the Texas Supreme Court is going to take up the cowardly Democrats who fled and abandoned their jobs and abandoned their responsibility. Then we're going to speak about the lawsuit that the Trump administration has filed in Maryland against the whole federal court system there and the judges, 12 judges. So that's interesting because it's really squirrely on how it's what the reasoning is on both sides. And I think in Maryland they did, well, I'll go back to it, but they didn't think it'd get as far as it's getting in the courts. And then the fourth thing we're going to do, again, swing back to the Texas situation, is Beto O'Rourke and some of the comments that he's made over the last couple of days. That's should be disturbing to Democrats, but nothing is beyond the Democrats. You see them cursing at rallies, at the police, and I mean, you can do that. You have the freedom of speech to do that, but just screaming nonsense stuff at them and trying to incite a situation. And that's where I think the police and everyone else in the courts should start focusing in on that. The freedom of speech does not mean you can incite a confrontation. Just shouldn't be allowed. It shouldn't be allowed to be done by anyone. So it will be interesting to see how this is going to start playing out as we get further into the Trump second administration, and the rhetoric that we're hearing from, I would call it the left, versus the rhetoric you hear from the right. But yeah, it's easy to get confused. And when you do get confused, that's when you go to the big book here on the Constitution. And you can look up circumstances and situations. And I mean, there are shelves full of rulings on a lot of these issues that are already there. But whereas the Supreme Court, you can't appeal the Supreme Court. Once the Supreme Court makes a decision, it's non-appealable. Though you can ask the court to revisit it. And, of course, that has been done many, many times. So, but it's not called an appeal. You just can't file an appeal and go, until we hear from the judges, we want everything to stay status quo. No, once the Supreme Court makes a decision, That's it. That's the law. So, all right. So we're going to dwell in a little bit deeper here. I'm just going to call it the Posse Act, and that was originally signed into law in 1878 by President Rutherford B. Hayes. And that limits the power of the federal government in the case of federal military personnel to enforce domestic policies within the United States. So what that really means is the federal government can't send in the regular army to force its policies, to enforce its policies. In certain situations. Now, this happened after the Army appropriation bills following the end of Reconstruction after the Civil War, or as the Southerners call it, the War of Northern Aggression, and has been updated in 1956, 1981, and 2021. And again, originally it was just the U.S. Army. That was always considered, who would be the ones that the president would be moving around to secure a situation inside the borders of the United States. And I think in 56, Eisenhower moved it to the United States Air Force, and in 2021, the National Defense Authorization Act of fiscal year 2022 expanded that scope to cover the United States Navy's, Marine Corps, Space Force. The act does not prevent the Army National Guard or Air National Guard under state authority from acting in law enforcement. So, what it's saying in that is that, as I said yesterday, if Minnesota wants to send the National Guard out in Minnesota only, and say we're declaring, martial law, or where it's, this area is falling under the jurisdiction of the National Guard and the local police and blah, 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 then the Army can go in there. The National Guard can act as a police force and detain, question, hold, and arrest. But what normally happens, what normally happens there is they hand them over to the local authority. Now, the way this also works is that adjacent states, take New York and New Jersey, if the New Jersey governor requested the New York National Guard to come there, the governor would go to the governor of New York, request it, and then the governor would either say yay or nay, and our New York National Guard could go into New Jersey. But once in New Jersey, Maryland couldn't ask the New Jersey governor to send New York troops southbound. I mean, that can't happen. It's just adjacent National Guards, and it's very wordy. What is allowed and what is not allowed. What President Trump is looking to do is having a standby group of National Guard being able to go anywhere he wants them to go. I don't think he can do it. I don't think it's allowed. So, and I said in my shows, right is right, and what's allowed in here is as far as you can go. This is an act. This is law. We have wording on what is permissible. So the only time the president can use and call out and overstep governors is in the case of insurrection, which is interesting, which is invasion also, that Trump is used the word invasion. In a lot of his court documents that he has petitioned, that 100 people is not an invasion in the sense, as long as it's not, they're not military, dress and stuff. But 12 million people coming across the border, you can call that an invasion. And the United States, the argument could be that the United States never stopped them. They didn't see it as an invasion. But if you look at our laws, yeah, it's absolutely an invasion. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Biden administration can try to circumvent this. But I do not think he'll be able to do what he would like to do, even if a governor requested that he send National Guard troops from other states into his jurisdiction. I don't know if the president can do that. He could do it with federal troops, and it's been done before. It probably can be done, but it would be such a very focused and limited case where he could move National Guard troops around. Like during World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and stuff, and of course, the Middle East wars we've been in, all been National Guard units called up and gone. The president can do that, but that's on foreign soil. And it's not a time of a real declared war. A lot of presidents sidestepped the War Powers Act and did some pretty squirrely things with it. And which they can do. They can. But when a Republican did it, the Democrats had every right to yell about it. When the Democrats did it, the Republicans yelled about it. Which is their right. Which is their, they can do that. I have no problem with that. The only one that really doesn't come underneath this, under the Posse Act, is like the Coast Guard. They don't fall under it. And I think it had to do with something, it has, what is it called, maritime law jurisdiction, and it's different than land-based. So they never thought of the Coast Guard as coming in and helping. I'm sure they would, on shore if it needed it, they could find a way to make it happen. And the name of the act was back in the day when a county sheriff or another law officer can conscript any able-bodied person to assist in keeping the peace. So now remember, you could be deputized, take an oath, and they can grab any able-bodied person they want. Because it can conscript. Now, I don't know if they can still do it, but they can. They can ask. I don't know if they could force people anymore to do it, but they could ask, hey, and once they did that, you fell under the immunity clause of the police and everyone else, and you can't do that now. So a lot of people are like, yeah, that'd be great. Well, you could be sued. You no longer have qualified immunity. So you better think twice about conscription. All right, we're about 15 minutes into that. So can Trump do what he wants to do with the 800 on-call, always available, ready to go? He can do that. He can have 800 people trained and ready to go. If they're from Alabama, they can only go to Alabama and any state that a governor surrounding it wants them to go. Or they can go overseas. But I don't think that the president has the power to move these people like he would want to do it. At least not in what has been printed in the media as his ultimate plan. So I think that's going to be interesting. And this had to go with yesterday's media meltdown over DC takeover. And of course, now we're going to talk about the Texas legislators. Cowards. And again, the Attorney General asked for an immediate response by the Supreme Court, by the Texas Supreme Court, not our Supreme Court, which might end up there, but the Texas Supreme Court, to request to expel Democrats who left the state. Now, this article, I think, came from MSNBC, where they said, who left the state. They didn't leave the state, they fled the state. They abandoned their jobs. They left their post. Now, do they need permission to travel to another state? Nope. But when the governor calls them back for a session, they're obligated to come back or explain why they can't. I'm on active duty, can't do it. I'm on vacation, can't do it. I'm in the hospital, I can't do it. I have a situation, emergency situation, I can't do it. The roads are out, I can't do it. But fleeing your job and fleeing your responsibility and not coming back to called sessions after session after session after session, I'm going to say that's a no-show, and you're gone. If you and I did that on our job, you're not showing up, so you abandon your job position and off you go. So he asked that be done. The court ruled 48 hours after Governor Abbott and Attorney General Paxton requested this. Now, the Supreme Court of Texas said, whoa, wait, keep it, fellas. No, we're not going to do that. But what we are going to do is give each party time to file briefs with the court. And so the court has given them 3 weeks, so that's like the end of September, and by September 4th, they'll have a final response. Now, that's after the current special session is set to end, but the governor can push that out. So that's not a problem. He can just keep setting dates. And Governor Abbott had said that even though the Supreme Court wouldn't hear it, again, Texas Supreme Court, would not hear this and rule on it within 48 hours, this is still saying it's a very technical win. And that this brings the ringleaders closer to consequences for their actions. It's interesting because no one has ever removed anyone from this. This has never happened before, where because they're not showing up for a meeting, that they're being expelled. But this is more than not showing up for a meeting. This is a willful calculation to stop the process which they were elected to keep that process moving. They're legislators. It is their job to legislate. And because they don't have the vote to stop certain legislation, which is legal legislation, what they decided to do is pick up their marbles, take them off the playing field, and not play. Well, if it was a playing field, you could do it. It's not a playing field. It's your job. It's your duty. It's your responsibility. It's what you were elected to do. And Wu, who's the chair house of the Democratic caucus, is saying that this is what his voters want him to do, which is a ridiculous position to take. So if your constituents said that they want to make murder legal, you'd have no problem doing it. You'd flee the state because the rest of the legislation, the Republicans in this case, said no, we're not going to make murder legal. Well, that's what my constituents want, so we're going to run away and we'll just stop the whole process. We'll stop everything. Nothing will get passed unless we get murder people. Now, I know that's an extreme vision, but it's relevant. You don't have the vote. And what they're afraid of is the redistricting will create 5 to 8 more congressional seats in the House of Representatives in 2026. But I guarantee these Democrats will lose their seats. Many will lose their seats. It will be an all-out effort by the GOP to go to Texas and flip them and go into those communities and go, they're screaming about helping you. What have they done for you? Tell me. What have they done for you? And it's going to be hard pressed for a lot of these guys to sit back and say what they've done for them. So, and the Democrats, of course, condemn the unusual mid-decade redo. Now, normally they do that with the with the census. They go through and hey, this changed, and they redraw lines. Is when that usually happens. But the Republicans have changed lines. The Democrats have changed lines in other states, and it happens all the time. And that's the term gerrymandering. So it's a shell game. And it's legal unless they could prove some, shenanigans with it. And what the truth is with what's going on is they have no other tool in their tool bag. There is nothing they can do to stop this from happening, except if they're not there. And that is crazy logic on the Democrats. Crazy logic. To say, we're going to shut the whole thing down because it's not going our way. Hey, tough. Go there, as I said before, man up or woman up. Yes, man or a woman. And do your job. Vote no. We're not for this legislation, and we think with a clear conscience you shouldn't be for it, and go and make the case. Vote. And if it doesn't pass, the Democrats can say this is because of a successful approach and going and doing it. But by not doing it, by not allowing the process to take place, they are truly the authoritarian problem. My way or the highway. Who's stopping this? And not by legal means either. This will come back to haunt the Democrats. It's just one of many things. Now, and, the lawyers and everything are saying, Wu has not died. Now he's the speaker, or chairman of the Democratic caucus. Has not died or been expelled from the House by the constitutionally prescribed means, a 2/3 vote of the House. His lawyer screamed in his defense. His presence in another state is not voluntary resignation, as his opposition to this petition makes evident. So they sent in stuff saying, we're not resigning, we haven't left our jobs, we're just not coming back. Well, as governor, I'm ordering you back. Well, you can only order me if I'm in Texas. Well, that's where you're supposed to be. What Texas business were you doing in New York, LA, Illinois? What were you doing there? Well, I was speaking with the, governors there, and so, what did that have to do with Texas? These guys are going to lose. They should all be paraded in clown outfits. Because at this point now they just look silly. And then when they become silly, they become irrelevant. And the Democrats will sit there and go, no, we did this as a means of protest. Protest. You can't protest that way. Why aren't you in your districts helping your people? Well, this is our way of helping our people that's in our districts right now. How? How? Explain how that helped your people. It's about not helping the people. It's about helping yourself. Let's not mix that up here. This is all about retaining power. Now, the Texas Supreme Court is made up entirely of Republicans. 2/3 of them were initially appointed by Governor Abbott. And 2 of them, including the Chief Justice, served as the governor's general counsel. Now, the Democrats will scream that this is, he loaded the court. He did this. To an extent, you could make that claim that, yes, I did appoint. I didn't load anything. I appointed, and they were confirmed. And they act independently. I can't order them to do something, as they have already proved. We're not doing this in 48 hours. It's not enough time for those people to defend themselves in briefs and stuff. We understand there's an election. We understand that everything's coming up, and we understand that this is very important. But we're not throwing our legal principles out the door and bum rushing them out the door. They've bum rushed themselves out the door, but they have the rope, they have the tree, they know how to make a noose. They could swing their own rope over the tree branch, slip it on themselves, and they're done. We're not going to help them with that. And you can say call sessions, and if they come back, they come back. They're going to have to pay fines and everything else. That's going to happen. That's a no-brainer. But sending a letter back saying, no, I'm not resigning, I'm protesting. No, you don't get to protest that way. You protest by voting no. Well, I was elected to represent the people of my district. Yeah, all of them. All of them. Not just the people that like you or voted for you, but all of them. Democrats, you are in big trouble. Big trouble. So, what the Supreme Court has now told them is that the parties have to, the aligned parties, meaning, the Republicans and Democrats, have to consolidate their briefing to the extent of practicality. Meaning that in your brief, you better have bullet points stating on why these people need to be expelled. And you better have bullet points with facts showing why you should not be expelled and why your actions were taken and why they are legitimate inside the privy of what your responsibilities are. Did you take an oath to serve? Did you abide to go by the Constitution of the state of Texas and abide by the Constitution of the United States? And to fulfill your obligation of office and serve to the best of your ability. Are you able to serve? Are you of sound mind? Why didn't you show up? Well, I was protesting. You couldn't protest here? Well, if I protested here and not gone in there, the governor would have had me arrested and dragged in here, which he can do. So you didn't want to follow the law of Texas. This is so clear cut that anyone with any common sense would say, these people are out of their minds. They're going to be fired. They're going to be, they're not expelled. I mean, you're not expelling them. They gave their job up. So you're not expelling them. And what the Supreme Court is telling these Democrats is, get back here. Because if we file this, if we go, and these papers end up in our hands, and you don't come back, you don't have a job. We don't need to vote you out with 2/3 of anything. You've abandoned your job. You effectively resigned, even though you sent papers saying, no, I did not resign. Your actions spell otherwise. And then at that point, the governor can appoint. And you people are so foolish, you will go down with your ship instead of being survivors and rebuilding. Foolish, 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 foolish. Foolish, foolish. So they have till August 20th. Wu's response is due Friday, August 29th. And reply briefs are due Thursday, September 4th. So, again, what the Supreme Court of Texas is doing is going, oh, guys, everyone to their corners. Better think about this. And think hard. Because this isn't about expelling you. Which, if you were sitting in the House, then they have to go with 2/3 of the vote, and then it has to follow the legal doctrine of removing a sitting legislator. Once you abandon your job, you're no longer sitting. Those rules don't apply to you. Now, you can go and go, I'll go to the Supreme Court. I guarantee you the Supreme Court will turn around and go, no, you don't. You don't. And the last thing the Democrats all over the country, and when I say Democrats again, I'm talking ones in authority. Just like Republican. When I say Republican, I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about the Republicans that are in authority. Are going to go to them and go, do not dare take this to the Supreme Court. Because if you do, and the Supreme Court rules against you, now you just screwed California, you screwed New York, you screwed Illinois, you screwed anyone who wanted to do what you did. Now they could say, you don't show up for your job, you got a warning. Maybe the legislators will now go and put warning tags in there. Go, you miss 5 or 3 sessions in a row, special emergency sessions in a row without a real reason why. It's considered abandonment. They can do it. They're legislators. You guys, Democrats, better stop crying. And this isn't doing. This isn't doing. What you're doing is not feasible. It's not sustainable. How can you be relevant if you're tossed out? Honestly. How can you be relevant? You guys are in a quagmire, man. And I don't know who's pulling your strings or telling you what to do, but I would tell you, stop listening to them and start using common sense. Start using common sense. That's a long time on the Texas Supreme Court. And what's going on there. And, this is just starting. I can't wait to keep going on this. I got so much traction on this stuff. It's pretty interesting. Now, the court is weighing in on a unusual Trump lawsuit. And they say Trump. It's a Trump administration. It's not Trump. But probably, honestly, it is Trump when I think about it. But Trump isn't going out there and he goes, figure out a way to make this work. What am I paying you guys for? Trump. It's a lawsuit against Maryland-based federal judges, all of them. And I said 12, it was 15. I apologize. I stand corrected. It's 15 federal judges. And the only thing he's fighting with them over is a standing order affecting deportation cases. Now, the Supreme Court has already ruled that in certain cases, expedited deportation can happen. And what not this. It was Chief Judge George Russell had said that no, expedited to him just would give a stay of a few days while the case is considered. And the Trump administration is saying, no, expedited means as quickly as possible. And this judge is saying, expedited to him is meaning that a few days for a person to get legal counsel, to understand what's going on, to them is not unreasonable, but still being expedited. It's an interesting balance. And I said, I will use good judgment and common sense to say, this is a good process. But you also have to remember that deportation is not a criminal matter. It's a civil matter. And civil law and criminal law are two different animals. Civil law, you have a right to an attorney, but we don't have to give you one. We don't have to make one available to you. You can go over to that little thing. There's, ask someone who's a lawyer. But we don't have to give you that. We have to explain to you what's going on. But that's it. The due process for non-citizens in deportation is not the same as the due process of in a criminal matter, where I feel the due process here, you shouldn't be able to hold someone for 8 months in a camp. Unless they have an attorney who says, well, and we have a date for a hearing. Then you can do that. But if these people don't have a lawyer and go, no, I can't afford a lawyer. Well, tough shit. Sucks to be you. And they're gone. They're gone. So, they might get in front of a judge and go, yeah, I came here illegally. No, I never filled out any paperwork. No, judge, adios, or whatever term you want to use. You're out of here. I understand the idea of, where a judge would say, well, expedite doesn't mean you take them from the police car and drive them to the airport. Yeah, how do you know you got the right guy here? How do you know that there isn't anything else going on? Do you have a lawyer? Well, better call him. Yeah, tell him, we picked you up. If these guys can't afford a lawyer, that's their tough luck. And that's civil law. And it was always interesting how it could be a federal law, and yet it doesn't come under the... Yeah, I always... How was that never argued before? Now, in a criminal case, yes. Yes, you get a lawyer. One will be appointed to you if you can't afford one. Citizen or no citizen, in a criminal matter. Again, this is not a criminal matter. What is interesting is if you caught an illegal who was robbing a store, and they're charged with robbing the store, then it becomes a criminal matter. Now, what say the district attorney goes, we're not going to charge him. We caught him. We're not charging him. Hand him over to ICE. Now, we caught him. We hand him over. That's where all the belly aching is happening. The Democrats, liberals, progressives, and probably a few Republicans are saying that the police don't have that authority to do that. And I'm going to tell you right now, they do. They have the right to take a civil matter and turn it into a criminal matter. And they have the right to turn a criminal matter into a civil matter. You ask O.J. Simpson that. Well, you can't, but when you look at what the police can do, the police certainly can act in a civil manner because, in essence, a speeding ticket isn't a criminal matter. It's a violation. Is it a misdemeanor? Is it this? Yeah, no. Only if you don't. Only if it's escalated up. But for the most part, it's just a violation of a rule, of a traffic regulation. Now, if you went through a red light and ran someone over, yeah, you're going to get a ticket for running a red light and then also for criminal negligence. So, I mean, there'll be a whole bunch of things up there that you get nailed with. In this case, it just seems a little bit more weighty. And the justice, the Department of Justice said that the order harms the federal government's sovereign interest on a repeated and ongoing basis. So they're saying that, no, we get them out, they shouldn't be here, and they're gone. And the standing order for the judges in Maryland really is arguing that the order constitutes a purely administration procedure and does not reflect any consideration of the legal merits of any claim that is argued. All we're saying is that they got 2 days to get a lawyer, to file papers, to do this. But that's 2 days to be in front of a judge. Might take 10 days to get there. Might take 2 months to get there. They don't want that. The government said no. They're illegals. Out they go. So the Supreme Court has ruled in it. The Supreme Court did not say and give a blanket condition. They did not say that, if you are illegal, automatically you go into the, bad person pool and you're out. But what they did say is in certain cases, you can do that. And you can be charged with a law where you have a criminal lawyer. That criminal lawyer is not going to represent you in the deportation, so you're thrown out of the country. What happens in that case? He's not here to be tried. We find him guilty in abstention, and boom, that's it. Well, we want him to come back to face trial. He can't come back in the United States. And we're not going to extradite him. We're not doing it. We're going to have the trial here. And some of these people say, no, I want to face trial because I get to stay here. You don't get that call, sweetheart. And again, that's the rub. Where does one begin and one end? Does it end in civil or does it end in criminal? Where is that? Where is that gap? What happens in that gap? So it's never been explored before. It's never been argued to the point that it's being argued. Because no one wanted to go there except Donald Trump. And the people who voted for him, because Trump has said from the beginning this is what his plan was. So this isn't anything where, oh, MAGA's all upset. No. If you're upset, then you didn't understand the process. And you were an uneducated voter on that subject. And it happens. It happens. Yeah, I wanted him to do this, but I didn't want him to do that. Well, he said he was going to do that. You didn't think he was going to do it. Well, he did it. Voting has consequences. Ask the Democrats in Texas. Voting has consequences. And I think that with everything that's going on, I think the again, I'll keep going. My opinion, my show. Democrats are really in trouble. They're playing this very, very badly. Very, very badly. And as I said before, they should have jumped onto the wagon of Trump and ride with it. And I know, just like they did in Germany. Yeah, no. Totally not even closely resembling. But you go there, keep calling us Nazis and racists and everything else you do, and drive the moderates away who go, no, I want safe streets. I don't want my tax money being spent over there. I don't mind it spent over here for our citizens, but I don't want it to go over there. You know, and you're going to drive those moderates away. You'll always have your 28% of your people that will follow you right off a cliff, just like the Republicans will have 28% of their voters walk over that cliff with them, no matter what. Oh, we're all going to die today. Do I need to bring my roll of quarters with me, and do I need a blanket? Yeah, you'll have those people. Both parties has them. And it's not even anymore your undecided voters, because they get decided real quick when they start hearing this nonsense. I'm a Nazi? Not a Nazi. My grandfather fought against the Nazis. My parents, my mother and father fought against the Nazis. My father-in-law fought against the Nazis. We're not Nazis. Oh, you don't know what Nazi is then. No, you don't know what Nazi is. You don't know what fascism is. Forcing me to stay in my house. Forcing me to get an experimental drug. Forcing me to wear a mask. Forcing me to call someone them instead of sir or madam. Or they, or whatever the freaking pronoun you want to use, that's fascism. We are not going to let you forget about it. And that's why 2026 and 2028, you guys are in for a crushing. I said September, October was going to be it, proving me right. Proving me right that by September or October, the die will have been cast. And there is no coming back from it. You will not be able to jump on board. You'll not, well, we thought about it, and this is, the president, And you could see it, even in Washington, the mayor of Washington, D.C., is coming out, well, having more police out there on the streets seems to be a good idea. And, and she caught all type of lip for that. Oh, no, no, you have to be anti-Trump. Well, no, and then she, meets someone else and she tells them another story. It is the Harris doctrine of whatever flavor of the day you need it to be, you just tell me, and that will be the flavor of the day. There's no consistency. There's no substance. And we are going to point that out more and more and more. And I will point out Republicans that do that, and I will certainly point out Democrats that do that. You have Democrats screaming, see, he's trying to do that so he can get a third term. No, he's not. No, he's not. You can make that battle cry all you want. No one, no Democrat, no Republican wants a president in there for more than 2 years, 2 terms. That's it. Because the other party would lose power. Or it'd be so hard to sway. You need, and if that third term person ended up screwing everything up because it's their third term, it just causes a problem. Causes a problem for who's ever sitting and running next time. 2 terms is enough. 2 terms is enough. And you could say, well, why don't they do that for Congress? Why don't they do that for, the Senate? Because they don't wield the executive power that a president has. That's why. It's an easy answer. Do you understand now? Well, if they got a term for the president, they should have it for the senators and congressmen. No. Because the Congress, that one individual can't write an executive order. That's why the president is set to 2 terms. And do you know why that was? Look up how many executive orders Franklin Delano Roosevelt signed. That's why they don't want it. That's why both Democrats and Republicans goes, yeah, good gig, but we can't have it. So, look it up. Do your homework. You don't have to believe me. Go look it up. It's still out there on the internet. Because God forbid you go to a library. Most of you don't even, well, I won't say most of you. I take that back. I apologize. Most of you don't go to a library anymore because it's at your fingertips. But the problem is with Facebook, Yahoo, X, boom, boom. How do you know that information is truly what's in the textbook? What has been written for 100 years? And they go, well, who makes sure that that is right? Listen, if you're going to go that back far, go into the desert and look for the scrolls. But if you really want to see what was going on back in the day, may I suggest, and they have it online, but they're photographs and scans of the Harper Weekly newspapers, going all the way back to the 1840s and all the way up to the Civil War. It's fascinating reading. Fascinating reading. And then you could start comparing it against other notes. History is there, folks. And yes, you could make the argument that history is written by the conquerors. In certain cases, that is true. But there's a lot of history out there that can't be undone. And I laugh because you go, You scream about, we should have open borders, man. We should, Yeah, ask the Indians how they feel about that. Ask the American Indians how they feel about open borders. All right? I'll end with that. If you can give to a charity, give to a charity. Just make sure that charity is a legit charity. Trying to help a victim and becoming a victim, not a good thing. Give to a local food bank. And when I say food bank, they need toilet paper, they need feminine products, they need soap, they need stuff for children. It's not just food. But food is the main source because you could live with a lot of those, not a lot of those other things. Food, water, and stuff, you're not doing too well. You need shelter. And you go, well, I go to the store, I buy 4 cans. Well, what the hell is 4 cans going to do? Well, to a person that had no cans, 4 cans can make all the difference. And you can say, well, they made their own situation. Absolutely, they could have. That a reason to let someone go hungry? And through the grace of God go I. Or for the grace of God go I. I could have screwed up and that could be me. So, easy to judge, and we all do it. I do it almost daily, and I'm talking to you, Bob, in New York. But honestly, and I kid Bob in New York, and Bob is one of the most giving people. He walks and talks and walks and does what he says he's going to do. And one of the most generous persons I know. I can't stand that. He's such an uber liberal, but all right. I'm throwing this through the screen at you, bouncing it off your head. He'll know what I'm talking about. And with that, I'm going to say a prayer. Prayer does work. And with the rest of you, I'm going to say a good night. And I'm going to get this out the door ASAP. No waiting this time. I'm going to edit it and get it the hell out the door. All right. Going over to my fade to